Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Ladner, and I'm with the SFU Centre for Dialogue, and we are hosting this event and another event that is going on tomorrow and Friday, where we are really trying to put a focus on local solutions and local collaborations for coming up with affordable housing in this very, very difficult environment. And to kick off the whole discussion, we are very lucky to have with us tonight Avi Friedman, who's been here before as a guest of the Urban Development Institute, which is one of our sponsors tonight. And we were lucky to be able to get him back and to talk to you tonight about thinking outside the box about affordable housing. Avi is known nationally and internationally for his housing innovation, and particularly for the Grow Home, and Next Home designs. He is the author of 10 books and was a syndicated columnist for the CanWest chain of daily newspapers. He's a practicing architect and the recipient of numerous awards, including the Manning Innovation Award and the United Nations World Habitat Award. In the year 2000, he was selected by Wallpaper magazine as one of 10 people from around the world most likely to change the way we live. He founded the Affordable Homes program at the McGill School of Architecture, where he teaches, and he's here tonight to tell us about affordable housing. Please welcome Avi Friedman.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me well? Wonderful. It is easy to mention the words affordable housing and make sure that people are coming to listen to you. Seems to me that in Vancouver is really a critical issue. And I'm very, very pleased, to be invited and be part of this forum and potentially make contribution. But today I would like to bend minds. I would like to make you think about affordable housing in a different way and understand not only the sheer immediate ramifications, but what affordable housing means to all of us. And I believe that when I talk to many people who come to this country, some of which are my students, they all tell me that what brings them to this continent and to this wonderful country of ours is the dream of owning a home. They either live in either places in a condition where ownership is impossible for some. They live in places where they will never be able to afford the luxury living and the good living that Canada provides to its citizens. We are living now in a very, very interesting time. And in my opinion, there can be easily a line drawn in the sand where some of us will have and some of us will not have. And we would like that if the sand or the line is near the ocean, that the water will completely erase it, and we will be a land where everyone has equal opportunity. But we are facing many very serious realities. It is not difficult to build affordable housing. Something shifted, something changed in the formula that make it not working for us anymore. When I came to Canada in 1980, I was amazed that in Montreal, I could buy a home with my 2 years' salary. It's gone away from Montreal as well, and there is many reasons for it. And I'm astonished that in Vancouver, people will pay on average, and this is, I believe, the cost in BC, the average cost of housing is close to $800,000. And I cannot even imagine a young person who finished school today, educated person who went to university, who can afford to live and build and live and have affordable housing. We are living in time of change. Vancouver is a prosperous city, and there are many people who can find work here. But this is not the case. We are seeing economic shift. Many people who are going to graduate in the next few years will not attain the salaries, the income that will enable them to come anywhere close to buying homes in the price range that we are talking about. We are living now in one of the most fundamental economic shifts in the world, some of which will affect the life of each individual and each young person who is about to embark and honor their own life journey. We saw demographic transformation. Whereas earlier generations, say half a century ago, were people who grew up in traditional families, mother, father, and sometimes with 2 salaries. 10% of all the people who are out there looking for a home are single-parent family on 1 salary. 16% of all the people who are living in Vancouver are single people. We see economic shift where now people with a single salary, with a single income, are looking for a home. And they do not have nor the product, nor the cost, and nor the ability to afford such a home. And we are talking about 25% of the entire population who will not have access to affordable housing. We tend to believe that all of us, all seniors, save money to their retirement. There is an avalanche coming your way, coming everyone's way. And this is people like me with forehead that continue all the way to the back, who are now contemplating their retirement. Some of us did save, but some of us did not. The city of Vancouver, like any other city in Canada, will most likely wake up to the reality that there are many people who live in rental accommodation, never were able to afford the home, and they will be a burden on your social services that I assume are already burdened. The idea of providing homes to young people today will enable to lift burdens, social burdens in future years. Archaic technology. You can go to a hospital today in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and an incision will be made on one arm, and a little camera will be inserted right into your heart. Another incision on the other arm will insert a little balloon, an angiogram, right into your heart. We are still sending bunch of 2x4s to muddy construction site to build on. We did not move an inch from the middle of the century. We are still building essentially homes the way we used to do it. There is no innovation, no idea, no foresight of how we can build home in a different fashion. We're building Cadillacs. I amazingly saw around the Toronto area a home advertised where it was advertised 6 bathrooms all connected to the internet. Who needed it? But we have come to expect the luxury that previous generation never dreamed of. And we came to expand, and we loaded the home with more and more and more, and we failed to understand that if you are young and you want to attain and build and have yourself a home, you have to size down your expectation. We have to go back to a time where we can live modestly at first and then expect to have more. But this is not how we come to the market. We want everything, the granite countertops. And this is what makes, among other, the home very expensive. We need to think about our environment completely differently. We cannot sprawl anymore. Not that Vancouver has tons of land to sprawl, but we cannot sprawl. We cannot build endlessly. Because once you go to the boonies, you have to sit in the car and you have to listen to Lady Gaga all the time. But this is what we have done. We build homes and we cannot afford to have many people going into suburban locations. There is our concept of what a town or a city build or how it is evolved need to be completely different. Home ownership is still an amazing draw. In other words, people will be willing, and sometimes when I think about economics, of personal economics, people will be willing to buy a home and pay for the rest of their life just to have the luxury of having land and owning a place. It is a draw. Unlike countries where home ownership is rental ownership or rental living, no, we would like, it is a draw. We recognize, and it is engraved in our financial psychic even, that when you buy a home, real estate improves, and it is an important step in building capital. And this is, again, something that is very important. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the world is changing in front of our eyes. Europe shaking. Every day when you watch the news, you say, will they break up tomorrow or after tomorrow? How will they save Spain with 40% youth unemployment? How the American will crawl from under a rock called $20 trillion? We are seeing wind of change around the world. Cities of the future will have to think about the world in a completely different terms. And the way to lay the foundation is today. You work hard for a decade to prosper for a century. When I talk about affordable housing, it's not necessarily only about housing the poor. It is part of an old conception where Vancouver, who is now geared to be one of the world's nicest and leading cities, need to lay the foundation for the future. And in a changing world, this is the time. Sometime when you are in the middle of it, you don't know. But see left, right, and center, not only economic shifts, environmental shifts and so on, and you can see that the time of change, the world is changed. This century, the coming century, will determine or define how the world will react and perform very clearly, both geopolitically and economically and environmentally, among others. So, why do we need affordable housing? Why affordable housing is needed? People can continue to live the way they are. They continue to rent. When you talk about affordable housing, this is what most people think about. They think about the people who are, this is what the first association that people have about affordable housing. Ladies and gentlemen, the people who live in this house struggle to feed their children and to educate them. But this is not affordable housing. Affordable housing are our kids, are my daughter generation, my son generation, who grew up and would like to have a slice of what I enjoyed in this beautiful country of ours. Something that drew me from another part of the world to this wonderful land of ours and make me believe that the Canadian dream still hold. And I truly believe that we are not always understand the ramification. Ladies and gentlemen, affordable housing is part of a domino, societal or social domino. It cannot be seen in isolation. It needs to be seen as part of multi-strategy of how society behave and perform in a place. Think about the greatest invention in the past decade or 2 decades. What they were. Things that change our lives. Computer, invented by 2 young men in a California garage. Google, 2 young students in a dorm who developed one of the largest corporations. Facebook, a kid in a drunken dorm put together names of people to create an instrument that has the potential today to connect 600 million people around the world. It is unbelievable, and I can go on and on and on. We defined in our success and wealth that enable us to build in luxury, defined by group of people who come up with amazing innovation. If you build affordable housing and you draw to the place people, there is room for them to prosper in such place. Success of cities in the future will not be defined by the wealth or how the well-to-do, the top 10% are doing, but how we treat everyone. In order to prosper, you have to be inspired by creative people. Creative people are not the people who did this beautiful sculpture in one of your parks. Creative people are people who come and infuse our society with ideas that define how we drive and how we go and how we read and what we read, and infuse and inject to our life this amazing idea, transformative ideas. These are creativity. And if you do not bring creative people to this town, you will not have creative ideas, and you will not have creative cities. And Richard Florida, in his famous book, about the creative class, The Rise of the Creative Labs, talk about location as being extremely important. And I truly believe that his idea is absolutely correct. Creative people tend to go to places that inspire creativity. You want to have as many creative people living here and coming and increasingly bringing all kind of creative element to every facet and every layer of life. You need them, we need them, and once again, this will be extremely instrumental to how city will function in the future. How many creative people are out there? In Scientific America, this issue, you can find it on, it's a wonderful issue. You can find it on probably your newsstands here in Vancouver. You will find that the future of city is about to be defined, and it was suggested. The numbers show that urban developers produce more innovation and create opportunity for growth. In another article that was published last week in the New York Times, again suggests that in this time of transformation, success of cities, and the opportunity to create jobs of tomorrow will depend on how creative the places are. And you don't have creativity without young, without people who have a place to stay. In the world, in the war about the future of Vancouver, you would like to be a magnet that will bring those people from around the country and around the world to work here and create your continuous prosperity. And this is very important as well. For many years, I worked in Mexico. I used to go there. I spent my sabbatical there once, talking to people and building housing for the poor in Mexico. And what came across is how oppressed the people are. That people accepted their fate when they live in the favelas, shanty towns, that their life will never be improved. That they will never be able to rise and send their child or daughter to a university. They used to live in a place where the opportunity to be part of the greater society never exists, does not exist. I believe that housing is one of these defining instruments that make all of us live and be on equal footing. We cannot afford to build two-tier society, because once you do that, Canada is not Canada anymore. It is El Salvador. It is Guatemala. We are living in one of the nicest nations in the world. And the fact that people are coming here, knowing that they have opportunity and chance to be equal member of society, to wake up in the morning with a sense of being willing and work hard and contribute is extremely important. When I know that I'm standing near a mountain, Everest, and it says $800,000 and I make 35 and 40, I will never even can assume to have the energy and the power to reach the summit, let alone reach first base. We need to give everyone opportunity to get there. Another important element has to do with how much we spend. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation suggests that people will not spend more than 30% of their income on affordable housing. And it was done for a purpose. Because once you spend more than 30%, you don't leave much else to other things. We are seeing now, once again, to our famous crystal ball into the future, we are now waving a timid, shy goodbye to our healthcare system. Because it is unlikely that the government of Canada will be able to place pacemaker, hip replacement, knee replacement in the bodies of baby boomers. It is impossible. I believe that people must save today for tomorrow. They need to save for their kids' education. They need to save for their retirement because there will not be much wealth to go around. And when you put 100% and 60 and 70% of your income, nothing much is left for anything else. Nothing much. That's the reality. you will fall backward. You will be in a bad shape in the future. Now, there are other things that contribute to our urban makeup. If you build, you have higher density, it justifies mixed-use development. Luckily, Vancouver is it's a wonderful, when I walk here, I don't need many temptations to come here. I love the place. I mean, who cannot love Vancouver? With all your beauty and the mountains and the river and the ocean and a sense of new, and it is fascinating to be here. But once again, one of the things that are good in your city, primarily downtown, is that unlike many other places, you don't have to take your passport to get into your car and drive 2 hours to buy milk. It's all can be under, and this is, again, the future of cities. Mixed-use development will be the way we build housing in the future, and affordable housing suggests or allows opportunity to do that. Another important thing, last night, when I came to Vancouver, I say, this famous Canada line, it's midnight, nothing will work. I stepped out of the airport, into the train, and into the ramp, and there was this amazing train. And I say, where is the driver? There is no driver. You should be amazingly proud of yourself. Nothing like this exists in any other Canadian city. You can pay for it, or it can be paid in other way by the people who live next by. Building affordable housing, justifying investment in public transit, and this is, again, another opportunity. When I come always on a cardinal line, and I look to my left, to my right, I say, why they don't build housing here? Where are the housing? It goes to places which are completely barren and empty, nothing there. I believe that we have to wake up to the reality that times have changed. Once we, taxpayers, need to subsidize this, once again they take money from things that they need to spend on that will make us all prosperous. But this is what we have done. And if you are to build affordable housing, you can see that increased number of higher density favor transit. People are likely to leave their car behind. And what happened when you leave your car behind? This has happened. What happened is that we pollute less. Another element in my famous domino. We don't drive as much. In a time of high fuel cost, in a time of high emission, we cannot afford. Probably, I don't know if you heard the term global, but we are living in time where global solution will be only fine. Global challenges will be formed or solved by local solution. We are part of a big family called the humankind family. And once you not drive, you not use your car, and you use transit, we are contributing our share, and this is something that we also need to do and think about. Once you build, it is known that every construction job, every unit, generates a tremendous amount of activity and construction activity. This is, again, extremely important. Once you start on a stream and you build affordable housing, and you can then rely on young people who will come and get the job and will start enterprises, there will be continuous prosperity in the life of this city, and this is, again, something that needs to happen, and we need to count on it. Building better communities. Our life did become or move to a stage where there are more things that can split us apart. There are more things that can make us play with our BlackBerry and smartphone and sit in front of television and so on. Communities are about people. This is what draws me to housing, because housing is about people. When you build housing and you bring people in them, you build a better city. There is a neighborly relation. People helping each other. There is a sense of community. When I live now and I don't live here, and I don't know when I will reside tomorrow, my sense of investment in my community reduced dramatically. Why shall I work? I may be tomorrow there. I believe that to a sense metaphorically, a house is a Denver boot. You make you stay in the place for a very long time and be a contributing citizen, and it create housing, ownership, create much better society, which are very important. It is not easy to come with a solution. I wish I had a magic solution. I wish I would have told you that in my suitcase in the hotel I have this magic wand that I can wave and everything will solve everything. Affordable housing is one of the most complex issues. Some suggest that scientists call it ill-structured problem. You will never solve it. But I truly believe that if we are to line up the pieces of the puzzle, solutions are possible. And later in this presentation, I will share with you my experience in the thing. Everybody wants to come and buy a home here. I hear these stories about people who are coming from overseas and buying many properties and so on, which raise the value of the place. That's true. But they are not going to buy housing in Red Deer. They're coming to Vancouver because this is a wonderful place to be. But this is something most Albertans that I'm familiar, and I'm working a lot in Alberta, tell me when I ask them about retirement, they all tell me that they would like to retire in Vancouver. So wait. There is a wave of Albertans coming there. And remember, they're sitting there on a pile of oil. So they have the money to come and buy homes here. Okay? It will happen. We cannot avoid. We cannot give everybody a card and say, you stay in Peace River, don't come here. We are living in a democratic society. People are allowed to come to wherever they want. You have a constraining topography. I wish you could have flown and built in other places, but when you go to Vancouver, you are surrounded by sea. Where will you go? Where will you build? And if you are to build somewhere, it is usually rocky terrain, hard to build infrastructure in, most likely even costlier than other places. Vancouver has very little land reserve. In other places, sometimes you see city or have pile or stock of land, like the city I worked in, the city called Medicine Hat. They have huge land reserve in other places where they can always release land in order to lower pressure. I don't know if the city of Vancouver have such land reserve. I admire Vancouver because of its greenness. I don't know, sometimes when you come to this place, you get this feeling that this is really on the cusp, on the leading edge of environmentalism. But sometimes, even this can be pushed too far. We cannot have everybody painted green. And once you load the building with all kinds of gadgets, they are becoming very, very expensive. Now, we need to respect the environment, but once you build denser, you already made a huge contribution, so you don't need condensing tube on the roof necessarily. You can have them. This is something that really makes the home expensive here. Another thing that you have a low-rise tradition. You will be hard-pressed to find something like this in the place where I'm coming from, in Montreal or in Toronto. You will not see something like this. Now, what can be? I believe, once again, and this is, let me state, I'm not suggesting and not favoring that the entire city will look like Manhattan, and everything will be 50 or 30 stories. No. But I believe that this type of row can easily entertain another 3 or 4 stories of housing. Very easily. Another 3 or 4 stories of housing. And if you are to calculate and sum up those numbers, those places, and you can see if you are to go throughout the city and you just place 3 housing, sensible densification, you can see that you solve affordable housing overnight in Vancouver. You will be able to solve it right away. But you have this tradition, and I believe that this can be overcome. So people say, where can we build more? It's look like denser. Not even come close to being denser. And with 3-story, it will be a very, very beautiful place, in my opinion. In my opinion, and this is my humble opinion, this is once again perhaps even nicer because it creates a nice street, nice layout, and so on. And the people who will live here will live above stores, and this will be quite nice. So, tough. How we will make housing in Vancouver? How we can build affordable housing? I truly believe I listed now a list of options that you may have. That's a few options that Vancouver has. I will call the first few pie in the sky. They are the pie in the sky department. But I would like to begin with pies in the skies because some of these things really were done, exist. But I believe that they can be relevant and they will be too controversial and too crazy. But sometime you can dream, and this is perhaps the first few are part of the dreams. Build over water. Now, this is Kenzo Tanga proposal for the Tokyo Bay. There are companies that do that. They build that. But we cannot see the serenity on the beauty. I know Vancouver cannot stomach even 1% of that. Because you love your river, and you love the ocean, and you love the water, and so on. Another solution, Avi Friedman solution, no relations, is build over street. He suggested in Paris, and this is what the metabolists did, to build layers in some cases, where you will build another layer, and you will build housing on top of traffic. This is, once again, imaginary solution, but I believe that this can also be relegated here to pie in the sky department. But this is a relevant solution, out-of-the-box thinking. Another one, something that is common in London, is this. You put units on top of roofs. You allow people, when the housing costs in London were very expensive, this is a company that manufacture these units, and they come and they simply rest the unit on the top of a house. Nobody sees it. It's on top. It can sustain. You cannot see it from the street, but these are things that also are proposed. But let's get serious here. What can we do? Let's say that tomorrow the city or the government of Vancouver, either the federal or the provincial government, will decide that they would like to subsidize. I believe that in tough economics, it is definitely possible to build social housing. But if in tough economics, I don't believe that this is an absolute viable solution. It is a solution, but people usually are reserved about the fact that their taxpayer will go out there to build affordable housing. And it was also, there are all kinds of methods, but it was also demonstrated when affordable housing are built with public money, they usually cost twice as much, and the taxpayer is stuck with a big bill. So subsidy is one way. Subsidize means that the city of Vancouver will go out there, will buy the shops that I show you, the row, and build on them. In other words, there will be public money invested, which might be a viable solution and can be on the table open to negotiation. Improve production. Perhaps we have to invest in lowering costs through innovation. Things that enable us to build much faster. Different material, different units. And I will show you how I was part of this process of creating innovation to improving production techniques. Another one, build even taller. Now, I know that this is once again controversial because we don't want to see the entire city made up of towers. And there are all kinds of bad connotations associated with the social impact of having only towers. It's not socially acceptable in some places. There were many papers that have been written on that. But this is a solution. You will allow tomorrow, when you have 5-story, build 10. You can allow to do it. So this is another possible solution among many. Being even smaller. I don't know how much smaller you can go in Vancouver. I heard that there are developers who build 300 square feet. How many shoe boxes you can have? Where people will live and eat. But some may say that when you go to some places, some countries, some places, you can see that they build smaller with all kind of flexible partition. But this is definitely making sure that what you make the most of a space that you have. I'm not suggesting it as a solution. I'm suggesting that this is the direction. We are now standing on a crossroad and we have a map, and you can go this way or that way or that way, or you can go several ways. But this is a possible alternative and an option that we may want to consider. Build denser dwelling types. In other words, the question is, and once again, this is a time to put on the question whether we can see in the city of Vancouver people living in a single-family home on a big lot. I worked for many years in a city called Langford. It is on the island, and I really consulted the mayor. And he, with his councillors, made the decision that he allowed people to sell their single-family homes and replace them by 3-story apartment buildings. It was a conscious decision. Transform downtown immediately. This is done in other places. This may raise the issue of, I don't want my character, the character of my neighborhood to be destroyed. That's true. It will change the character, the physical character of the community. But on the other hand, it will provide affordable housing to young people. But this is the direction that you may select. Now, it need not to be a blanket solution for the entire city, but you can designate a few areas and fight NIMBY there and provide opportunity to build affordable housing just in this particular area. But this is definitely the case. Build over commerce, something that we talked about. Yes. This is on Robson, and I stunned to see that in Robson you can still see, I just walked there today, that in Robson you can still see these things, right in one of the streets. And I do believe that even in some of these places you can see some things. Allow conversion, something that we did in Montreal for a very long time. You have a single-family home, you can have another entrance and convert the basement, if there is a basement, into an independent unit. Well, I'm sure that something like this will stride here into independent unit, allow conversion of the second floor, and you can see, I live in a neighborhood called Notre-Dame-de-Grâce in Montreal, and you can see it all over the place. In front now, if you are to walk on many streets, you will see legally or illegally in Quebec, you never know. You never know. Where people are punching holes and they are converting their basement into apartment. The other day, a relative of mine came to study from Toronto in Concordia University. This is where he found apartments. Somebody who recently converted the basement, rented him a unit for $500 a month, and he is extremely happy. So it worked. And you can see it also built, and you can convert the second floor into another place and allow housing to be. So this is, again, moving from single family to multi-family. When you evaluate all the choices and all the options, and you prioritize them in one way or another, you come to a very, very simple conclusion. Building sensibly and more and denser is the only viable and immediate solution. There are other solutions, but it's the only viable, immediate solution. Why it might work? There are so many mechanisms, and there's this wonderful workshop that we are doing tomorrow. I will be delighted to comment on them. But basically, the basic underlying issue is that if you are to build more, you probably will be able to increase supply and demand will decline. In other words, the cost will decline. Now, there's another issue there. You can say, hey, we had tried it before, but we have overseas investments. There are mechanisms that enable you to control such processes. If I'm letting you build over a store, I can, in the deed of sale, we did many studies on that, there are mechanisms to control that there won't be flipping or shenanigans in all kinds. It will never happen. Absolutely. Absolutely. There can be a legal mechanism to control. I'm not talking about pie in the sky, and I'm not talking about Mars. I'm talking about practices that have been practiced and used many years in other places, and I have no doubt that there are many developers who will understand the potential and they will be willing to work under such circumstances. And remember, I'm not suggesting in any of the ideas a blanket solution that everything will be like this. Smart city designate area and they make them the target and then go after them in a very sensible and organized fashion. And I believe that this can happen here. I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate first to be here today and meet you. But I'm also fortunate to be involved in building affordable housing. And I believe that one of the reasons why I was invited is that probably I was involved, again, by sheer luck, in a process that made me being able to put people in homes. You cannot imagine how much gratification someone feels when I go to a development that started because ideas that we generated, and you see sunset, summer, parents in shorts coming out and pushing a baby. You cannot imagine how happy I am when I see families working on the front lawn and planting things. You understand that the makeup of these communities are changed, and they are extremely, extremely happy people with wonderful society. My work started in 1990. There was an amazing crisis in Montreal, in Canada. Interest rates rose to 13%. Young people could not afford homes. And now, fresh out of my PhD, my dissertation, was invited to found and start a new program at McGill University called Affordable Homes. I grew up in a faraway place. I was born and grew up and raised in Israel. When my parents arrived to Israel in the late 40s, we lived for a few years in tent. So you can imagine how much my parents were happy to get 350 square feet. But this was our first home. And I recognized that if you have a place of your own, you can feel different. And I recognized that this should be the idea. And what we did was we built this home on the campus of McGill University. It was a 14-foot wide, 4.2 meter wide home. When we built it, everybody laughed at us. They say, who will live in a doll house? Who want to live here? Who will live here? The truth is that I was amazingly scared because I did not have tenure at the time. But what we suggested, that people will start their life by having kitchen without doors, without cabinet doors. And on weekends, they will take the rusty Toyota and they will drive to IKEA and buy them later. We suggested that if you want to be a homeowner, you should compromise your own demands and own dreams, size them down. But this is how you should start their life. We suggested that hallways should be functional. You can place cupboards in them. Why we need to have a foyer in which you and your entire family can square dance? Now, we suggested that you may want to start your life with unpartitioned second floor, hence the grow home. And in the future, when you have more means and money, you will be able to build 2 additional bedrooms and another bathroom. But this will be the beginning. This will be the start. None of the things that I'm suggesting here meant as a suggestion for Vancouver. The purpose of the examples that I'm about to show you meant to show line and way of thinking, that we can conquer and climb that Everest if we want. But this is what we did. We suggested that this is how we will begin. We eat a raw nerve. I have to tell you, it is wonderful to wake up in the morning and to see your name in the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, and be interviewed on Good Morning America. But really, more than what we achieve, the media exposure, we recognize that we hit on something very important. Canadians and Americans are really craving to have a home of their own, and they will be willing to do a lot to have it. Nothing happened. People say, if your ideas are so good, why no one wants to build them? It was really shameful. If the New York Times wrote about it, find someone who will be willing to build them. I was willing to have somebody build it out of paper mache. I ran and chased developers in town and say, please, please, build one. Nobody wanted to build it. Until I met this person. His name was Leo Marcotte. He was a small builder from Pointe-aux-Trembles, a small suburban municipality. There was recession in the late 1990, 1991. He came and he told me, I am about to lose my property. I heard about your home. Can we talk about it? I looked, I said, can you show me what you build? And he told me that I built this home. And I looked at them first, and I told him, you know what? You should begin by changing the name. Who in the right mind will buy a home named Begonia? But then when we looked into it, I saw that it is 28 by 34. And I say, you know what, Mr. Marcotte? If you are to take this design and you are to split it to 4 segments and you are to put them on top of each other, you will get the grow home. He says, wait a second, you try to pull a fast one. Who will the right mind will live in a house 4 feet wide, 14 feet wide? So I will never be able to sell it. I looked at him and I said, I had this magic moment. I looked at him and I said, Mr. Marcotte, you are about to go bankrupt anyway. You have nothing to lose. He says, Avi, you have a point. You have a point. He was a very shrewd businessman, and he went and he engaged, he went to the media and invited, there was nothing going in Montreal, and they were happy to write something about it. And as you can see, he mentioned, and a reporter came, the first Maison Evolutive, it's like grow home, for $79,900. I don't know why they always finish it with a 9. The thing that people will think that it's $60,000. But anyway, this was here at the bottom. This was the cost of a regular home in Montreal, $149,900. Ladies and gentlemen, the guy with the advertisement on the bottom there had a bad weekend because 24 units were sold that weekend. 24 units. The entire development of 87 units were sold in 2 weeks. 1,000 units were built. 1,000 were built in the first year. And 10,000, we stopped counting in 10,000. And they have been built in other places. And when we returned back, and we recognized that we built a wonderful laboratory for ourselves. We recognized that 90% were first-time home buyers, that when given the opportunity to buy something with a monthly mortgage payment equivalent to almost the rent, they will jump, they will do it. It worked out. We survey and we find out that many of them did what we expected them to do, complete the home by themselves. Some of them did plumbing, walls, floors, electricity. I don't know, by the way, if electricity is legal. But some of them did electricity as well, and they did all the things by themselves. Let me take you to one of these developments. It is a lesson, in my opinion, to the city of Vancouver. It is a lesson. Called Cité Jardin, Garden City. It is a community that is located off a metro line, similar to what you may find. It was a barren piece of land that was owned by the city of Montreal. The city of Montreal initiated a competition where they put the land, a developer can buy the land at a fair market value. It was not any cheap, but reasonable value. And then they can build on it, and they will likely to sell because there is Metro Line next by and other facility. And Montreal was extremely successful with this program of design-build competition. But it was a very, very interesting idea of how different parties can collaborate with each other. The city initiated a competition. The city relaxed zoning. The city stood up for NIMBY. Very, very important. Very important. Because the project was proposed in a place where there was single-family home. There were people rioting there. They will lower the value of our home. There will be crime and all that stuff. And this is what happened. The industry went on with design-build submission, innovation, and agreed to price cap. There was a price cap that they agreed to. And once again, consumer, in effect, lowered some expectation. Now, many of the things that were changed were as followed. First, it was 14 feet wide. In Montreal, the smallest suite was 18 feet. So the city was saying, okay, we'll reduce it to 14. Once again, I'm not suggesting this is a solution to Vancouver. I'm suggesting that this is when people who work together find the compromise. So they accepted that, yes, that we will have 14 feet wide. Once again, higher density than the neighborhood. And I can tell you, when the people, the neighboring units that you can see here in white, found about this project, they stormed City Hall. They say, you cannot lower the value of our homes. And these are not the homes outside around them. They are not nice homes. You drive fast and you sneeze, they are collapsed. But once again, they really resisted the possibility of building affordable housing. There was strong need, but once someone in the city got it, they stood up to these sentiments and they say, it cannot happen. We will not let it to happen. And in fact, in my opinion, this project improved the value of these homes at the end of the day. They accepted narrow roads. Yes, you can argue sometime when I see the 18 feet wide road, unlike the 32 that are required, 18 feet wide. Once again, people argue this street will never work. A snowplow will not, we get a lot of snow, a snowplow will not be able to clear the snow. People will park here and so on, and it will be disaster. And how the fire truck will work, and all that stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all baloney. Nothing like this work. Nothing like this is true. We can make many assumptions. I was this past summer, I was in Tuscany, and I saw these homes stuck together to each other. And I say, gee, how they pass a 40-foot long fire truck? Ladies and gentlemen, they are smart. They develop a 20-foot fire truck. If you do not want to think outside the box, there will never be a box. We need to start to think and design in a different fashion. Innovative parking. They recognize that if everyone will have front parking, it will not be good. So they suggested that the backyard will be suspended and you drive from the side and right down onto it. Once again, completely changed what parking was allowed in the code, in the bylaws at the place. They suggested that there will be share yard. They could easily divide it to long yard, but they say, no, you get small yards of maybe the depth of the yard is only 15 feet, but the rest of it is shared between people. And in my opinion, wonderful social relation can emerge in such place. Height of a home in Montreal used to be 34. They raised it to 40 feet. The reason, by the way, somebody knows why we build 35 feet, why we insist on 35 feet? This is the height that a fireman ladder could reach 50 years ago. And we're still stuck with this dimension. But once you raise it to 40, you can have a space in the attic, and small is no longer small. It's spacious. And this is a place to which you can send a troubled teenager when they grow up. Now, I once went to one of the Go Home projects years later. And I stood and overheard the conversation between a single woman who came with a child who ran all over the place and a salesperson. She said, I'm working for the government of Quebec. My salary is that much, and I want to buy one of the homes. So the salesman says, please, madam, sit. And he started to calculate. And he said, I'm sorry, your income cannot afford you to buy a home. It was the cheapest home in Montreal, and she cannot afford this one. I walked to this place, and I remember driving, it was a winter day. First, I talked about the child. We need to break cycles of, if you want, social discontent. The chance of this child to grow up and be one day our prime minister can be easily attributed to the condition in which the child will grow. I want to give this child a bedroom. He must have a bedroom. He must have a desk on which he will do his homework. And I say to myself, something is wrong. She has a good salary and she cannot afford. I say, gee, maybe we can think about housing in a different fashion. Tell me how much you make and I will design a house for you. So what I did was design a house that is much more flexible. If I can come with a grow home and I can tell you, you need one floor, why should you once again be obliged to buy a kitchen in which you can feed a battalion in the Canadian Army? Why do you need it? Why do you need it? Why you will be forced to buy unbelievable thing? When you need to buy a kitchen or a bedroom, I believe that the catalog can be prepared where people will be able to buy just as much as they want, as much as they need. I suggested that once you buy this element, it can be like the car industry. You will be able to place this element in whichever place you want. We also suggested that the way we build in the past is really archaic. We sand gypsum, and we plaster, and we sand, and we plaster again, and we paint again, and we plaster again. Do we have iPods? Did we land it on the moon? What are we doing here? These walls can be constructed in 2 hours, and they are not, sound transmission is fantastic. We came up with the mountable wall. You can build them very quickly. You can finish it very quickly. And they are nice. They are coated. You don't have to paint them. We use them in fancy offices. Why can't we think about production and housing in a different fashion? How we do electricity today? We build studs, and then we send electrician to drill a hole in each stud, and then they wire the fish wires. This is how they do it. Doesn't make sense. I say, if you are to put a molding around the perimeter, hollow molding, you will be able to easily fish wires, and you will be in the very same place, able to put electricity, cable TV, and telephone. But always when I show this one to builders, they say, it's against the code. Change the code. I mean, why it is code? It was done when the Flintstones were alive. I always was fascinated by how cars have been built. Why we are not paying $100,000 for a car? Why car remains affordable? Obviously, they are different consumption good. We throw them away after 10 years. But the car industry was able to find a way to prefabricate home. 70% of all products that are being produced or get into the car are not touched upon by person. It's all automated. Why can't we bring the same stuff? What we did was created 7 typical partition and 6 typical exterior partition, interior and exterior partition, and we suggested that this can be organized and orchestrated in a way where people will have fantastic amount of choices. And you will be able to select the components so the homes will not look like they all came from the same cookie factory. And people will be able to personalize them as they wish. They will be able to do it. The challenge is not to talk. Talk is cheap. The challenge is to wake up in the morning and believe that your cause is so strong and the future value of your city rests on these ideas that I will work hard until my face turns blue, until I will be able to get this mother in her own home. I went and I solicited money from Cascade and I built this demonstration home on the campus in 12 days. 12 days. We built this demonstration home on the campus. Once again, against all odds, I went and I solicited material to demonstrate that we can build affordable housing. And unit here, by the way, costs $60,000 land included, which for you, like, I don't know, small change for you in Vancouver. $60,000. This is what you have in the pocket after you go to Starbucks. But this is what happened there. This is what happened. So this is the next home. We build it on the campus. And if you are to remove the wall, you will see on the lower level, there is a person named Claude. We call them name, and I hire actors to illustrate to people, to officials who came to visit them. And if you are to go, Claude is a recently retired person. He was given, when he retired, a pair of golf club, and he said, I don't want to go to Golfland. And he says, I want to start my own career and business from home. And the lower floor is converted or designed to have home office in the front. He is an insurance adjuster. The kitchen on the lower floor was designed to be adjusted to the condition of a person who eventually will be old and will want to age in place and not to move to an old people farm. And he will also have a living room. On the second floor, there is a young couple who decided they are dumping their money, if they are not buying it. They must make that move and get into the housing business right away. And as you can see there are shelves, metal shelf right there, living room, dining room, and right on the right in the middle picture, you can see that there is a shelving system that also acts as a storage, and it's divided between the living and the bedroom. And on the third floor, we have a single mother with 2 teenage kids who have a room about space for herself in the attic. And you can easily say and look and say that IKEA sponsored this house. I returned back and recognized many homes next to them were built in Montreal. But I got a telephone call from a developer who said, look, Avi, I would like to start a fabrication plan. When I hear someone wants to invest, music to my ear, they cannot escape, like lobster. They cannot escape, forget about it. So we went and we got this one, and we built a fabrication plan in Saint-Julie, Quebec, that manufacture all automatically. It's all controlled by computers, and it can all build a panel, automatic nailer, turning around, put insulation in them to lower cost, to be much more affordable. And it was, once again, something that helped us translate these ideas. And these homes, believe it or not, these panels can be put on containers, and we were so successful at the time in putting them and shipping them to Bradford, England, where they have been built now across the country, in the UK. Not only that, this is the story of innovation, and I apologize for not being humble. I sincerely apologize. I beg for your apology. But what I mean by that is that once you have good idea, it did not only help put people with homes, it created jobs and prosperity. And this is the kind of people that you need to have in Vancouver, who will create these future jobs. You have a port here, and the panel will go on the port, on the ocean, into other places where homes will be built. This is how we should do it. I would like to take you to another place. 2 years ago, I went to Porvoo, Finland, and by sheer chance, somebody should go and say, you should see the wooden home. I said, what is wooden home? I live in a country, all the homes are made of wood. But somebody said, you should go and see, and I took a bus, and I went for an hour, and arrived to a small town right in the outskirts of Finland. And the old home, which was a fisherman village, inspired construction of new one. Now, how it works in Finland. Affordable housing are not seen as leftover. They announce a competition. Not only competition, local and national competition. And top guns architects make their submission. And they do something with tremendous amount of innovation. And the city support and participate and organize and all that stuff. It is completely different mentality. They understand that the basic element to invest here is human capital, and they do their very best to invest in human capital. It is extremely important in this place. So this is how the project this is where the project is located, and this is how you build. We insist of having a huge front yard. As you can see, this is the 2 slivers of land. This is the front yard of each house, about exactly 18 inches. This is when you walk, this is the front yard, this is the stoop, right on the street. But they understand that trade-off is necessary, and you open this gate, this door, and you go inside, and this is what you see. When we have single-family home, we fence ourselves with huge fences, and we draw. This is how they do it. A bit of space, and they probably don't mind if somebody else come and use this space. This is where they park their car. We insist on parking our car in front of our flat-screen TV in the living room. I feel sorry for them because they have to walk 50 meters to their home. Once again, Finland is as cold, but they recognize that if we will insist on huge percentages of parking, there will not be affordable housing, and they say we will lump them together and people will work to the home. Life and work and affordable housing is simply about trade-offs. You cannot have it all. And they made trade-off on their own. It's about we cannot have it all. And this is where they store their stuff. There is no basement. Basement is expensive. Remember, Finland is as cold as us, if not more. But what will they do with the lawn chair and all that stuff? They will have a little room chick in the front, and they will put all the stuff right there, right in the front. And this is how they live. Trade off. And this is Main Street. Can they pave? Remember, national competition? The best architect in Finland won it? Where is the asphalt? Where is the sidewalk? No. This is how you get to your home. I'm not suggesting this one as a solution for Vancouver. I can go to list and find many solutions for Vancouver. And this community have some of the brightest architects in the country living right here. Amazing architects. And I have no doubt that we can find with Vancouver-made solution that everybody will love. But this is what they do. This is what they come, a Finland solution. And they, in the very same community, they have low, single family, and apartment buildings, something that will not be allowed in most places in Canada. You will not be able to do it. And we insist of having, which is wonderful. I really enjoy Vancouver. This is a bicycle city, healthy city. But we insist on having bike lanes in our cities. They say it will make the road too wide. We cannot afford to do it. So let's be disciplined. In the middle of the road, you put these dots, and the bikers, the bicycle people ride on the right, and the other people do on the left. If you are to calculate the sliver of land around this community, it is a sliver of land that eventually, when compounded, will be able to house another family or two, perhaps 4 or 5. You gave 5 families home. Somebody who will grow there to be the future entrepreneur, who will develop for a country as the size of Quebec. Amazing idea. Do you know, by the way, something that I learned, that in Canada we are not produced anymore a single sheet of paper. Unbelievable. I'm talking about the machines. We used to fabricate all paper-producing machines. Used to come from Canada. It's gone. The Finns are now producing unbelievable products, but once again, it is the domino. You have a house, you have an education, you go through the process, and all of a sudden you get prosperous nation, or cities, and this is how they see it. And as you can see, in the very same community, you have single family, semi-detaches, and housing in a row, and apartment building, and these are in the middle are the parking spots. In Amsterdam, again, a very tiny place. They have to build I really fascinated when I go to Holland. The housing innovation that they have there, because of the scarcity of land, made them extremely innovative. Apartment buildings, and they are built beautifully. And this is what they do. They took an old pier that was not used, and they turned the old pier, Borneo, they turned it into one of the most innovative housing exhibition in the world. Each product, once again, was designed by top-name architects who came and built and did amazing things in these places. And if you are to go, this is from my book, Neo Homes. If you want to see, I contacted the architects and got the plans. As you can see, you drive through the building. On top of it, under it, there is a road, ground level. And then in order to maximize the use of land. So there is the street is not open above, but you drive in a semi-tunnel in that place. And this is how it looks from afar. And this is how it looked from the side. Once again, a very, very interesting project, just inaugurated. Very innovative inside, very innovative spaces. In many places, and I know that Vancouverites are also embarking on a laneway homes. This is something, once again, it is wonderful. I'm not suggesting it is a solution for all over the place, but I'm definitely suggesting is as one of the possibilities to build, and this is a Swiss company who does these things, and they come and prefabricate and lend a structure like this at the rear of your home, and it is working, and it is successful in the context of that country. I always come to places and I give talks about affordable housing, and I like sometime to return to them, and I say, when I come to these places, I talk to the city councilors, I talk to mayors, I talk to housing advocates, I talk to academics, And when I return to that place years later, I wonder if they did anything. We need to adopt the just do it attitude. We can procrastinate forever. And we can leave the bare consequences, the terrible consequences of having two-class society. We need to begin to walk the walk. We need to just do it. But how you do it? How you turn a city like Vancouver, and how we all run back after this lecture to our cars, open the trunk, and look for the shovel and start to dig. How can we do it? How can we do it? I truly believe that it all begins by working together. We need to have everybody, all stakeholders, in the very same room, talking to each other. If you have camps of people who are not interested to have affordable housing, there will not. So the common denominator for everyone needs to be that working together is extremely important, and we all share the common good that having people live in a home of their own benefits society at large. We need to work together. And together means consumer. Together means city, the public, as you know, and the industry as well. Okay? The public means the public at large, those who live in the neighboring places to those sites on which we want to build affordable housing. Consumer will be the one who will eventually live in them. We need education. I truly believe that there needs to be a campaign that needs to expand to Vancouverites, that if you are to build affordable housing, there are many tangible income that I mentioned before. People sometimes do not understand that those who cannot afford housing are the teacher who teaches their kids, the nurse who cares for them in the hospital, the police officer who look after their safety, or the people who serve them at Starbucks. This morning we went to a radio station. I don't know if Adrian is here. We went to a radio station. There was this wonderful, wonderful person who talked to us about what not having a home in Vancouver did to her. I was really touched. We need to understand that as well. Leadership. Leadership is not only the running to an office. Leadership is what is also the delivery of your promises. Leadership is the ability to stand in front of a crowd of people who says, we don't want these homes. We will not vote for you. And I'm the one who usually, all the yelling are on me when I come to different communities to present affordable housing. I'm used to it. But it is the ability to understand that at the end of the day, we are not harming you, which need to be the motivating element. And I see in more than one cases, when you build them, the place become nicer. All the things that we anticipated and talked about really do happen. So there needs to be someone who will lead the charge, who will be able to say, yes, we are going to set quota, and will not just talk and fade away. We will make affordable housing, the number of which need to be discussed and agreed upon. The strategies on which need to be discussed and agreed upon. But we need to, once again, do it. So what is the next move? I believe that today I stood here with a big paintbrush and I drew many things. There are many signs, many statements here on the wall. You know who wins in chess? The person who wins in chess is the person who sees the most moves ahead. I can stand here and tell you that certain things might be my very innovative assumption and my imagination. But I can also say that some things are certain. They will happen. They are happening now. And I believe that the person who is respond to these changes will most likely to win. And when I thought about analogy, what analogy can I find? What analogy can I find? It always brings me to the car industry. When the Japanese built Toyota, built the car, the Toyota, in the 1970s, in my opinion, they did not build a car. They built a philosophy. They say that you can build a car that will be highly dependable, that you can build a car in which you will not sleep in your mechanic garage every night. It will be fuel efficient. They design a new engine. And they cost it only 1,800 square feet. I want to be the fly on the wall in this boardroom in Tokyo where they say, we one day will beat the Americans. This was the American response that day. Did the American knew that fuel going to rise so rapidly? That their fortune will decline and there will be a fading empire? Who knows? Who knows? I believe that there were many, many ideas there that could have let them know not to be arrogant and try to use the innovation, because Toyota became the largest car manufacturer in the world. And everybody who drove Toyota product will not drive anything else afterwards. And if you are to see innovation, and you think about robotics and automation, it came here from North America. But GM never wanted to buy it. So the person went and sold it to the Japanese. And this is how cars become well-built and extremely affordable. And this is the outcome. Once you are in a race of production ahead, and you keep at it, like Apple computers, nobody will beat you up. You will be all the time. You will go ahead and you will innovate. The culture of innovation in housing and the production of affordable housing, in my opinion, must be part of the culture of this city. We need to make some room for this to happen. We need to make some room. And on this note, I truly believe that we need to wake up very, very, very quickly. And we need to move forward with a new mindset. Thank you so much for being a great, great audience. I wonder, after I finish my talk, often people are in shock. But however, I'm here. My flight does not leave until Saturday morning. So I can stay here and respond to your question if you have any. I will be delighted. I see a hand there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just curious, in the context of your presentation tonight, if you have any comments on the work of somebody else from Israel, and what's your staff?
Thank you so much. First, I really admire his work, but as you probably know, the question was about the work of Moshe Safdie. And as you know, Moshe Safdie, there is only one habitat. It was never replicated. But the idea that you can prefabricate and manufacture things and bring them to the site or manufacture them on site, as was the case in Habitat, introduce a new idea and inspire many other projects. I see it as a chain, as a part of a domino of innovation, and I do believe that many of these things can also take place and happen. So this is also possibility.
Thank you.
Yes, I see a question here. Yes, and then you.
I just know that for some of the densification that is being talked about in Vancouver, especially in my neighborhood near Queen Elizabeth Park, the community has talked about a lot of the things that you're talking about tonight. Our challenge is having the city and the developers embrace it in the same way. We've talked about so many of the different things that you were talking about size and things that people can do in order to, like you were describing about the portions that a homeowner can do themselves. So we have been discussing all of those, and I'm glad to hear your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
It validates a lot of what the residents in the community, and none of us are architects or designers.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I heard a question here.
Yeah, it's in regards to prefab homes. What do you think are the biggest barriers to the widespread adaptation of prefab building? And is it mostly cultural? What are ways that we can overcome that?
The question was about why we don't see more prefabricated homes. And the answer is that the early generation of prefabricated home in Canada was not good. And they, as a result, got very bad stigma, that repetitive, poorly built, and so on. We, since then, move a long way. We have automation and all that stuff. And if you are familiar with a magazine called Dwell, in the Dwell House competition, you can see that amazing stuff is happening. And I truly believe that this definitely needs to be explored and needs to be looked upon if built nicely. Nobody wants, you see, affordable housing is not about building eyesores. Nobody wants to have bad project in their town, in their city. So they have to look nice. And I truly believe, and when I drive around Vancouver, I'm amazed by the quality of the projects that you have here. If the same talent will be used in providing or creating prefabricated affordable housing, it might work. What I see the possibility when you talk about, say, a single family, if say, in some areas they will enable or they will allow conversion of a single unit into 3-story in some areas, okay, you can easily take something and very quickly prefabricate it and make it very attractive and lower cost as a result. It is possible. Yes, sir.
I work in the development industry. I'm an urban planner myself. But how do you, and this is the question, how do we, in a community where demand for housing is as high as it is, encourage the development industry to get on board with things like this when their profit margins on providing these things are way up here? Yet myself, I find myself in the ironic position of working in the industry, but not being able to buy a home in the city that I work in, exactly as you're saying. It's not like
Unbelievable, unbelievable. First, thank you very much for coming and sharing with us your personal experience. The answer is very simple. Mr. Marcotte did in one summer, he told me, share with me, in one summer, the first summer, he did $1 million. He never did that kind of money in his life. He went on to be a very wealthy person. People believe that affordable housing does not leave any profit in the pockets of developers. It is exactly the opposite. When you build, remember, you can cater to the top, or you can work on volume. And it was demonstrated again and again, and I can do the calculation with you, that if you are to build more, and you have to organize, you have to come, you know the process of building, you have to be very organized. He was a one-man show, perhaps with another assistant, but he did it all himself. And the point is there is lots of money to be made by the private sector in building affordable housing. And remember another lesson, very important. If you don't have a first home, you will never buy your second one. Get them to the door. Let them live there for 10 years. And then they will buy the fancy condo or a large home. Very important. Once you lower, you squeeze, you don't have entry level, you will never have move up. Yes, sir. I saw a hand there at the back.
Sorry, jumping out. First of all, those homes in Montreal that were selling for $70,000.
Yes.
How much would those sell now?
I will say that you will not be able to buy them now for less than 120. You will be hard pressed. I believe that even more, maybe 150. Now, I want to explain. First,
GST on a home here.
yeah. And I know this. You can have a vacation home in Montreal. The thing is, there are a few lessons to learn. First, when affordable housing does not rise in value, it's not good. So all these people, their property, their investment got very, very good. Their value did not decline in any way. And in my opinion, there are more people out there in the market who want smaller stuff, entry level, than buy big stuff. So they did not lose. I was there. You may read the article. I was there with a journalist this summer. We went in June with Susan Samanak from the Gazette, and I was very pleased to see someone who won the original and took us to, by chance, we saw him taking the garbage out. And how his two kids grew, they're now moved out, how he converted his basement and all that stuff. And I say, how much houses? He say around 150. If you did many things and you improve your property, 170, 180. But this is what it is and what people do. Yes, yes. I see a hand there and another there. Yes.
All the things that you showed in terms of design and form and density, that's all here in the Lower Mainland.
Yes.
Building like crazy. So what is the missing element for affordability?
I believe that one of the things that hold you back is the cost of land. We all aware in infrastructure. We all know that. But I believe that, as I mentioned, and this is the place is tomorrow, we will deal with some of these issues, is to find a way to work and counter it by other innovative ideas that, A, make us put more units on the land, and how land can be capped, or you allow density bonuses, more units, and cap the prices that people can. There are many, many solutions. Many of them, as I mentioned, are not easy, and they are all involve one trade-off, one way of trading off or another. But these are the ideas. So the idea is how to build more on a land and make it viable and affordable in several ways, both legal, process, finance, and so on. Yes, Mr. Geller.
One of the problems here is that we are allowing higher density, but we've reached a situation where when land is rezoned to allow higher density, there's an expectation that the developer will pay community amenity contributions equal in part to the increased value of the land to pay for much needed community amenities. So in fact, the problem we have here is not just the cost of land, it's the cost of the community amenity contributions and the development cost charges. And when you add those in to the cost of land, you create a catch-22. The irony is, as the gentleman behind me said, we are actually building much higher densities than you're showing. We are building above those shops, but whenever we rezone a single-family lot now to do multifamily, there are people in this room who expect the developer to give them 75% of the increased value of the land, and they determine what they think the increased value of the land is. And as long as that continues, we cannot build affordable housing in this region.
So it is clear, and I truly believe that some of this need to be resolved. And here you have, you hit the nail on the head, and I believe that this issue need to be resolved. Yes, I saw a hand there, the gentleman with the black shirt, and at one point, you after. Yes.
I'm involved in laneway housing for a small part. My neighbor is also building one, and neighbor on the other side. We're paying between $25,000 and $40,000 only for fees. This is before we even think about building a house. $40,000 for fees alone. How do you have an affordable house when, and that doesn't include your property tax going up by $2,000 or $3,000 a year after that?
I really have speechless. The only thing that I can say, move to Quebec.
I used to live in Montreal.
The gentleman next to you, yes, please, the gentleman next to you. Yes, sir.
Talk to you on the phone about our new innovation house.
Yes, yes, you called me.
One of our problems here in BC is we're the only province in Canada that doesn't have an appeal board against the municipalities or cities. And it's time we had an appeal board so we could bring these costs up and someone could judge on it. And that's a major problem. I've tried to bring it up to the Small Business Association. I've brought it up to legislation. The municipalities are running the system, not us. And as long as that's the case, you're not going anywhere.
I truly believe, I'm very happy that if I am to be in my class now, I will run and write on the board, one item, second item. And then I will put my class and I will say how we resolve that. And all the party in the room will be gathered together and we will have to make a trade-off and compromises. But you pointed the issues. And the issues need to be worked and resolved in a variety of ways. But I do understand them. I do understand. I was made aware of them before. Please.
So we're just throwing all the problems into the mix, so I'm going to say, and what if we have a city, which we do have, in which the developers, especially the big ones, expect 17 to 50% profit?
Sorry, how
And
much?
that the people who are going to live in them are needing parks and schools and community center and want the greenest city by 2020. And that has to be paid for when municipalities only get 8 cents on the tax dollar. These all have to be added to the mix.
Yes, please. You and then the gentleman, you after. Yes.
I appreciate that you brought up the thing about parking, and that parking is taking up space that should be for housing. I'm working in doing housing in the developmental disability sector.
Yes.
People will never on their own be able to afford a home, so their families have to help them. They also will most likely never drive cars. So if the car space can become housing space and that's proven to be more affordable, then I really hope people do something else with the cars. And
That's right. I believe that the question was about cars. Do we really need parking in some places? Or
We're forced to, though.
we are forced. That's right. So I believe that you can come and visit places where the issue of parking was resolved in a very innovative way. As you can see in this project, in the one that I mentioned in City Garden, you can see how the city compromised, and they say, no, we don't want 2 parking spots per dwelling, but we will have 1 because there is a subway station right next door. Absolutely. These are the type. Now, there is hesitation on the part of municipal planner to go that route. But in our walk the walk, we can start by building a few demonstration projects and check them out. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't see or don't recall many disasters that happened before. Yes, sir.
I work in affordable housing in Vancouver.
Can you raise your voice? Your colleagues, your other people would like to listen to you, if you may. Just.
I work in affordable housing
Yes, sir.
in Vancouver, and I find the biggest obstacle, you talked about your little diagram with the gear wheels and everybody working together. And the top one on the right-hand side was the city. And you've heard people here from the development side, and I'm from the affordable housing side. I think our biggest obstacle is the bureaucracies, not the social development bureaucracies, but the bureaucracies of planning, of parking, of engineering, of heritage.
Absolutely.
That they don't seem to care. They don't seem to see the big picture. And I think what you were talking about was seeing the big picture, but they don't have to see the big picture because they're so insulated in their positions. But each one of those departments, you have to satisfy and please and I don't know what else to do to finally get a project through. I have a project that's, some of the funding is from federal stimulus dollars, and it's threatened with not being completed because, and the funding being stopped because of the slowness of the bureaucracy. That's what put it at threat. And, I see it all the time. So
Yes.
what's the secret to getting those folks to work together, to see the big picture?
I believe that those people were elected to serve you.
They're not elected.
They have been appointed. They are there in your tax dollars. I truly believe that when I talk about the magic room, where everybody sit around the table, we will write down on the board, change bureaucracy. ameliorate bureaucracy, and we will start to see how to go about what needs to be done. And there are many strategies. The idea of having fast-track affordable housing project, there are many, many ways. We are not talking about something that was invented yesterday. There are so many experiences in Canada. But once again, there needs to be first commitment on the part of leadership to change, and then it needs to be trickled down to those bureaucrats who put the policy in action, make it happen. Two more questions, if you don't mind. I know that people say that, oh, well, we have time. Sure. Sorry, yeah, yes.
I just wanted to mention before when you provided that example about the building height and the fire truck ladder.
Yes.
And just one thing that I found out a couple of years ago of why the outlets, electrical outlets, are so low in homes. And that's because when electricity was first being placed into homes, they learned that the outlets all had to be the same height in order for the electrical current in the homes to work properly.
Uh-huh.
And so they didn't have yardsticks or measuring tapes back then, so they used the length of their hammer. That's why the outlets are still so low.
Very interesting. Yes, ma'am. Yes, please, go ahead.
I love your passion about first-time home buyers.
Yes.
Because I do see, at least in my generation, a lot of people can add to our city with the creativity and things that they can add to our city. Once they want to grow their family, they have to move away because they can't afford.
Yes.
So when I looked at your housing in the Montreal area for 70,000,
yes,
and I noticed that it was 90% of people were first-time buyers.
Yes.
Was there any restrictions or anything like that for investors to buy that up as opposed to leave it for the first-time home buyers to achieve that affordability?
No. It was a classic example in Montreal. The Grow Home success was a classic example where increased demand, many builders, simply demand and supply, recognize in Montreal that there is money to be made by satisfying a layer of people who are currently renters, who if they pay $700 in Montreal a month for a rental unit, if they are to add another $100 a month or $200, they can afford a home. And it dawned on developers, and they all jump into this, and they started to build and compete with each other. They all profit tremendously well. There was no incentive. The only incentive at the time came in 1991 when there was a recession. The city of Montreal saw that young families are moving off the island to live in suburban communities. And they understood what can be the bad consequences. So they initiated a program saying to people that you have to pay in the first 5 years of your occupancy only $1,000 a year in municipal taxes. We will waive about $2,000. But they got them to live on the island of Montreal. This was the only really incentive. There was help with interest rate at the time, but this faded away right away. But it was really a good idea, all parties working together, land, increased demand, that made it happen.
Yet there were incentives.
The municipal taxes.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
Better than nothing, I agree, yeah. Yes. Great, I think that we answer. There is another question there. Yeah, last question, yes.
I have two questions. Are these developments, are they particular, do they have a different structure? I mean, are they stratified? I know Quebec has different rules about stratas, how you can have logement kind of thing, which is different than how stratas work here. So were these sort of buildings work as equity co-ops, or were they strata units? And following that, was there any issues getting funding from financial institutions to get the buildings?
Excellent question, and I did not get into it into my presentation, and I will be brief, but it is an important point. When Mr. Marcotte took the Grow Home to have it approved, the first reaction that he got, you cannot build a Grow Home, because the minimum width is 18 feet in Montreal. But then he opened the law, the bylaws, and he recognized if you title them as condominium, the width of the entire structure made up of 5 units is considered the width of the house. In Quebec, you never know, maybe there were also envelopes exchange or something like this. I really don't know. But basically, this is how it worked, and he himself was a trailblazer. He opened the market and made it very successful for everyone else. And we have a good condominium law like you have, okay? So no special law, magic law. It's all engraved, and it really worked very well.
Avi, we have a different definition of a grow home than you do.
I know, I heard about it. This that require lots of energy and lights. I know that. Energy not efficient grow homes. Thank you so much, and and be well, be well.
Just before we break up, I'd just like to say that, Avi, there's a saying that when you go traveling, the big benefit is you come home and you see your home in a different way. When we bring somebody like you in, it's like going traveling, and we can look at these problems and say a lot more is possible than what we're doing now. We just have to, as you say, do it, break through, and open up our imaginations and go back on those things we've always said we couldn't do and change them. I'd like to call up Maureen Enser just to wrap it up. Maureen's with the Urban Development Institute, one of our sponsors tonight, and I'd like her to formally thank Avi and set you free.
Thanks very much, Peter, and thank you, Avi. Ladies and gentlemen, when you heard in his introduction that we brought to you one of the 10 people in the world most likely to change the way that we live, I think we truly delivered. I think that was a very engaging discussion and conversation about affordable housing. And thank you, Avi, very much for saying what truly needed to be said. We've got a problem here. We need to work together. All of you in this room contributed with your questions this evening, identified some of the challenges, but I have to tell you, the sponsors are truly committed to solving those challenges. And I just want to let you know who some of those sponsors are, because this group, working with Avi in the future, will really, I think, make a remarkable difference on the Vancouver landscape. Tonight, UDI is proud to co-sponsor this particular event with the Vancouver Sun. But over the next couple of days, the following groups are engaging with a number of experts in the field, and they include the City of Vancouver, Concert Properties, Van City, Park Lane, Polygon, PCI, Development Corporation, Port Development, University, Spark BC, the BC Nonprofit Society, Simon Fraser University. We've all made a commitment. This is just the beginning. We're taking Avi at his word. We're going to work together and solve the problem. Thank you, Avi, very much for being an inspiration. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and we look forward to continuing the conversation in the future. Have a good night.